For activity number 3, we're going to talk specifically about linking verbs and their complements. So you need this foldable notes template. And then we're going to do the inside a couple together, walking through the process, the questions that we ask to get your brain wrapped around the process of how you find these complements. So I'm going to switch over to my notes presentation for a few minutes. You are going to take notes on this paper on the front cover. All right, so complement, not compliments with an I. Remember that complement completes. That's what the E is for, completes the thought of a verb. We spent some time in lesson 2 talking about these direct objects and indirect objects. Those go with action verbs. Today we're going to spend time talking about linking verbs and the complements that go with them, the predicate noun and the predicate adjective. And I know we are talking specifically about nouns right now in this unit, but it doesn't make sense to talk about complements without addressing these as well. It's just going to give us a little jump start before we talk about participles too. So there are 4 sentence patterns. Again, subject that goes with an action verb. We ask the question whom or what. If we can answer that question, we found a direct object. If there is still a word between the action verb and the direct object, we ask the question to whom. And if we can answer that, we've got an indirect object. Sometimes we don't have action verbs though. Sometimes we have linking verbs. You'll never ever see a pattern that says subject plus linking verb plus direct object. It just doesn't happen. If you have a linking verb, you're looking for either a predicate noun, a noun that goes back and renames the subject, or an adjective that goes back and describes the subject. Because linking verb, hence the name linking, that's why we have like a chain here, it links these together in a very specific order. So again, our complements that go with action verbs are direct and indirect objects. The complements that go with linking verbs are predicate adjectives and predicate nouns. Now, what is a linking verb? A linking verb is a verb, so it's a word that expresses some type of action or connection to the subject. In this case, it's a verb that links, and that's what we're going to use because it connects or links a noun or adjective back to the subject. So in this case, we see the same verb here, is. Is a linking verb. In the first sentence, it connects an adjective back that describes the subject. Mrs. Culleton is short. It completes the thought of that verb. In this case, it's a noun. Mrs. Culleton is I know it's a noun because it's got an A in front of it, a teacher. Teacher renames what Mrs. Culleton is. We're going to go through the same process that we always do, getting rid of phrases, then looking for our subject, and then identifying our verb. The verb determines what complement you would look after it. And so I strongly advise that you have all these pages glued in your notebook and you can refer back to them as needed. All right, so linking verbs. There are only 18 of them, and you're just going to have to memorize them. So the first 8 are pretty easy, I want to say. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. We just need to know them. We just need to know that when we see them, they're verbs. The other 5 go with this mnemonic I use, grabs. Grow, remain, appear, become, and seem. So you need to make sure that you have these written on your paper and make sure that you're spelling them correctly. Notice that appear has 2 P's. Okay, become and seem has 2 E's. Now, all of these verbs can also be changed in tense. For example, grow could be grew. Remain could be remained. Appear, appeared. Become, became. So we can change the form of the verb by its tense, and it's still a linking verb. The last 5 go with our senses, and that's why I have a little hand here to help you remind them. But there are only 5 that you have to really be careful of. Look, smell, feel, sound, and taste. And I want you to think about them describing how an object looks, how it smells, how it feels, how it sounds, and how it tastes. Because some of these can also be action verbs, and you have to really think about it. If I'm describing how something tastes, it tastes yummy. That's different from the action of I tasted the pizza, in that I took the pizza and put it in my mouth and tasted it. So we really have to go back to that description idea. How does it look, smell, feel, sound, and taste? All right, so we're going to flip to the inside of the notebook now. And I'm going to go back to here. If you don't have these notes written down on the front, I want you to make sure you label them now. And we're going to get, just like we repetitively used, direct object and direct object, we're going to use PA and PN. All right, on the inside. We're going to go through the same process that we've been doing. We're going to read the sentence. We're going to look for prepositional phrases and infinitives and get rid of them. Mike was ecstatic during his last class on Friday afternoon. So on Friday afternoon is a prep phrase. During his last class. So I'm left with Mike was ecstatic. Mike is my subject. Was is a verb. If I wasn't sure yet, because I'm still learning them, I can always go back here and check. Is it a linking verb? It has to be on this list to make it a linking verb. And so was is a linking verb, so I'm going to label it LV. When I find a linking verb, I'm not looking for a direct object now. I'm looking for either an adjective that follows it, that goes back and describes the subject, or a noun that renames it. Now, ecstatic is the same as being very excited, and so that is a descriptive word. This is a predicate adjective that goes back and describes how Mike was feeling. Mike was ecstatic. Number 2, Liz was my lab partner for a semester. So for a semester is a prep phrase. I'm left with Liz was my lab partner. I'm going to go look for my subject, Liz. Look for my verb, and I see was. Well, if was is a linking verb there, it's a linking verb here. Was. Now I'm looking for either an adjective that describes Liz or a noun that tells me what Liz was. Liz was my lab partner. Partner is the noun. We've got some describing words. Lab describes the partner. Whose partner was she? My partner. But partner is the predicate noun that goes back and renames Liz. Now, a little thing that you can do with predicate nouns is you can switch the order of the sentence. I could say, my lab partner was Liz. Liz was my lab partner. Now that only works with predicate nouns. So I'm going to put that little note up here. Switch the order if you're not sure. It's not going to work with action verbs or direct objects, but it works with linking verbs and predicate nouns. All right, why don't you go try number 3, pause the screencast and go check it out. When you're done, come back and check your answer. They are students in my class during the school day. So I see in my class, during the school day. So who is the sentence about? They. The pronoun they describes who the sentence is about. Are, if I'm not sure if it's a linking verb, I can come back over here. There it is. Are is a linking verb. So now I'm either looking for an adjective that describes them or a noun that renames them. And I see students. Well, I know students is a noun. That's a person. And a person, place, or thing is a noun. Now, if I were to switch this around, I know you're going to think this doesn't sound very good, but I could say the students are they. They are the students. We don't often see that, but technically, I do see a lot of times we talk about how Old English writing is. A lot of times they kind of put that pronoun at the end. Sounds like a very formal way of speaking. The students are they. Okay, and so the predicate noun goes back and renames the subject, or they could be switched around. All right, go ahead and pause it. Go do number 4, and then come back and check it. All right, the smoked salmon tastes salty in my mouth. Okay, so I've got a prepositional phrase. Now I'm going to look for my subject. What is the subject here? Well, it's salmon. What kind of salmon? Smoked salmon. Those are just adjectives that describe the salmon, but the subject is salmon. Now, taste is one I have to watch. Tastes is here as a linking verb, but I have to think about it. Is it talking about the salmon taking its mouth and eating something, or is it describing how something tastes? And it is describing that it tastes salty. So this is being used as a predicate adjective that describes the taste of the salmon. All right, pause. Go check number 5. After a storm, the air smells fresh. Got a prepositional phrase here, also used as a transition because it's at the beginning. So the rest of my sentence is the air smells fresh. So I see air is my subject. That's what the sentence is talking about. Smells is a linking verb. I'm going to stop and double check. Is it talking about the air using its nose to sniff and smell something? Well, that doesn't make sense. So this has to be a linking verb, which means I've got something that's describing how the air smells. It smells fresh. So that's a predicate adjective. It's describing how the air smells. All right, I think we'll do 3 more, and then I'm going to let you go off on your own. But again, I would continue pausing the screencast, coming back, and checking for the next 3, just to kind of check your understanding and think about the way that I'm explaining it and the questions I'm using to repetitively get that pattern in my head. Bees are now an endangered species on the planet. On the planet is a prep phrase. What's my subject? The sentence is talking about bees. And I see this verb are. Are was a linking verb here. It's a linking verb here. So I'm now looking for either an adjective that describes the bees or a noun that renames them. The bees are, I might think that they're endangered, but it's not saying bees are endangered. Endangered is actually describing species. So it's not a predicate noun. If it was a predicate noun, it would go back and describe the subject, and it's not. It's describing species. So species must be the noun that's renaming the bees. And I could check this by switching it. An endangered species now are bees. So because I could flip the order there, that works. All right, pause and go try number 7. The kids were really noisy in class, much like my dog outside right now. In class is the prepositional phrase. The sentence is talking about who? The kids, so that's the subject. Were is my verb. Am is, are, was, were. That's a linking verb. So now I'm looking for a noun that renames the kids or an adjective that describes how the kids were. And I think they weren't really. They were noisy. So we've got a predicate adjective that goes back and describes the sound of the kids. All right, and the last one I'm going to do with you, number 8. My mom seemed enraged during the argument. During the argument is a prepositional phrase. Who is the sentences about? I have a lot of people that just initially want to label the very, very first word in the sentence as a subject, and that doesn't even make sense. My isn't a thing. What's a my? My is an adjective. It's a possessive pronoun. It's showing ownership of mom. My mom seemed. Now, I don't remember that one, so I'm going to go double check my list, and there it is. Seem is one of these 18 linking verbs. So I'm going to label it LV. And now I'm looking for an adjective that describes my mom or a noun that renames her. Mom seemed enraged. Enraged means angry, really, really angry. So that's got to be an adjective. All right, you're on your own now. Go through and do the rest of these. If you get stuck, ask. I'm here to help you. Don't sit and struggle if you get confused with one. Okay, but you've got 8 examples that you can go back and check with. When you're done, go do the exit pass.